How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Rampage special event, New Year's Smash, from tonight, which is December 30th, 2022. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta for the AEW All-Atlantic title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Orange Cassidy went over and retained the AEW All-Atlantic title with the Orange Punch. Match 2, it was Kip Sabian versus Shu D. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Kip Sabian went over with the Orange Punch. Match 3, it was Jade Cargill versus Kiera Hogan for the TBS Women's title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jade Cargill went over and retained the TBS Women's title with the Jaded. And match 4, which was the main event, it was Swerve Strickland versus Wheeler Yuta. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Swerve Strickland went over with the JML driver. That was match 4 and the main event, by the way. Now, besides the matches, Tony Schiavone interviewed Sting and Darby Allin. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up about Darby Allin getting an AEW TNT title shot against Samoa Joe Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite in his hometown of Seattle, Washington, and everything. Well, Darby Allin was talking about how he's glad that his title shot's going to be in Seattle, in his hometown of Seattle, Washington, and everything, and talked about how once he was 115 pounds and he always wanted to be a professional wrestler, and how his dad didn't believe in him, and how his teachers didn't believe in him and everything, and then Darby Allin was asking Sting his thoughts and everything, and Sting was talking about how Darby Allin needed to not listen to the naysayers and not let them get to him and everything, and Sting was talking about how Darby Allin was going to go out there and kick Samoa Joe's ass and win back the AEW TNT title and everything. And then Darby Allin said okay, and then Darby Allin left while Tony Schiavone and Sting were looking on and everything. That was cool. Lexi Nair interviewed Preston Vance and Jose the assistant. Well, Lexi Nair brought up, before Lexi Nair could finish what she was bringing up, Preston Vance asked Lexi Nair to announce him as his new name, Pero Peroloso. Well, Lexi Nair addressed Preston Vance as Pero Peroloso, and Lexi Nair brought up about Preston Vance turned his back on the Dark Order and everything, and asked if he had remorse and everything, and Preston Vance asked Lexi Nair if she watched his interview with Jim Ross. Lexi Nair said she did, and Preston Vance was talking about, well, before Preston Vance could talk, Lexi Nair brought up about Preston Vance having a match on AEW Rampage next week and everything, and Preston Vance was asking Lexi Nair if she knew who his opponent was and everything, and Lexi Nair said she didn't know, and then Preston Vance was talking about wondering if it was any of the members of the Dark Order or a local talent because they were all the same and everything, and Preston Vance talked about how 3 years ago he wore a mask and done stupid hand gestures and everything, and talked about how 3 years later he realized his true potential and how he was going to be a top star and how he was going to kick everybody's ass and everything. And then Jose the assistant said to Lexi Nair, "Lexi, this interview's over," and everything. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Jon Moxley. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up to Jon Moxley about Hangman Page wanting to fight Jon Moxley, but the doctors won't clear him and everything. And then Jon Moxley was talking about how Hangman Page wants to fight him and everything, but the doctors won't clear him and everything. And Jon Moxley talked about how on January 11th, he was up to fighting Hangman Page if the doctors can clear him and everything, and Jon Moxley called Hangman Page a bitch and everything. That was cool. Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh cut a promo. Well, Sanjay Dutt brought up about Jeff Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt brought up about Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal challenging the Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, to a AEW tag team title match on AEW Dynamite and everything. And Jay Lethal talked about how all his life he's been wanting gold and everything, and talked about how he was sick of the Acclaim's raps and everything, and talked about how Wednesday they were fighting and everything. And so Jay Lethal ended up leaving, and Jeff Jarrett talked about how he's been in the business for 36 years and has had more shower time than Max Caster has had any ring time, and talked about how not only was him and Jay Lethal going to take the AEW tag team titles from the Acclaimed, but Jeff Jarrett himself is going to end Max Caster's career and everything. That was cool. Jamie Hayter cut a promo talking about how her and Hikaru Shida went to war and had a straight up fight instead of a AEW women's title match and everything, and talked about how January 11th her and Britt Baker were going to be facing Saraya and a mystery partner of Saraya's choosing and everything. And Jamie Hayter talked about how she didn't care who Saraya's mystery partner was because her and Britt Baker were going to beat Saraya and her mystery partner and everything. That was cool. Lexi Nair interviewed Mark Sterling and the Varsity Athletes, which are Tony Nese and Josh Woods. Well, Lexi Nair brought up about how Mark Sterling requested time for this interview and everything, and Mark Sterling was talking about how he was sick of Bryan Danielson meddling into his client and his best friend MJF's business and everything, and talked about how he hated Bryan Danielson and everything. And then Mark Sterling was getting ready to make an announcement, but Tony Nese cut Mark Sterling off, and Tony Nese was talking about how Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite, Bryan Danielson is going to have the highlight of his career by getting in the ring with the premier athlete himself, Tony Nese, and everything. That was cool. And Mark Henry interviewed Wheeler Yuta along with Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, and Swerve Strickland along with Parker Boudreaux and Brandon Gutzman. Well, Mark Henry brought up about how Wheeler Yuta wanted to fight Swerve Strickland on AEW Dynamite and asked Wheeler Yuta what was going through his mind and everything. And Jon Moxley was talking about how Swerve Strickland was a great talent because Killshot was one of his all-time favorite wrestlers and everything. And then Jon Moxley talked about how him and Claudio Castagnoli have been training Wheeler Yuta to have a positive mindset and do what the Blackpool Combat Club always does, go out there and kick some ass and everything. And then Swerve Strickland was talking about how the Blackpool Combat Club lost William Regal, but he himself got rid of Keith Lee and everything, and Swerve Strickland talked about how he was going to kick Wheeler Yuta's ass and everything, and Wheeler Yuta was talking about how he don't need Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli ringside with him like Swerve Strickland wants two guys that look like they came out of a tattoo parlor to come out with Swerve Strickland and everything. And Wheeler Yuta talked about how he was going to kick Swerve Strickland's ass and everything. And then Mark Henry said his signature line, well, looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event and everything. That was cool. Now, besides all that, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Paul White done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. Kip Sabian done guest commentary along with Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Paul White during the match between Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta for the AEW All-Atlantic title. Kip Sabian done great on guest commentary. The referees for the event were Rick Knox, Bryce Remsburg, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta for the AEW All-Atlantic title. Rick Knox refereed the match between Kip Sabian versus Shu D. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Jade Cargill versus Kiera Hogan for the TBS Women's title. And Stephon Smith refereed the match between Swerve Strickland versus Wheeler Yuta. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, And now, the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite Wednesday night, it's going to be Samoa Joe versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT title. The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal for the AEW Tag Team titles. Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks. Bryan Danielson versus Tony Nese. And Jade Cargill and Red Velvet versus Kiera Hogan and Sky Blue. Those are the matches that have been announced. Now, besides the matches, Hangman Page will be appearing live and MJF will be appearing live. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite Wednesday night looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Rampage special event New Year's Smash from tonight, which is December 30th, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your fucking ass down the goddamn road. Peace out.